Hey, what's going on, Trojan family? Welcome to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I am Ryan Dyrud. Thank you, as always, for making us a part of your day and helping this thing grow. It's been awesome to see over the last few months this rocket ship start to take off. We want to keep it going, so hit that like and subscribe button if you're on the USC LAFB channel, if you're watching on the LAFB network, or if you're listening simply at the Salute to Troy on audio platforms. We certainly appreciate it. We've got merch. Just want to throw it out there. Go to our shop, lafbnetwork.com. Just hit the shop in the menu. Got some USC stuff there, dropping some more stuff. Just another little side of the business. We'd love if you'd support and help out and, get some cool swag, cool shirt and stuff. Obviously, we have stuff for a lot of the other football teams here in LA, and we're going to be getting more with the other teams we are now covering, Dodgers, Lakers, and all down the line. So check that out. If you have any ideas, let us know. We'd love to get some merch centered that you would love to see. All right, I talked just recently about Jet Washington. I want to give a receiver update here. USC, I believe, is going to add one more receiver in this class to bring their total to 5. They've got a very strong, I think, receiver class right now. When you look at, just who they've added, the local talent in terms of California, and also just the versatility of guys from outside to inside of what the receiving threat, and then you add Mark Bowman, who's a tight end, but obviously is going to be a huge factor in the receiving game to that. You've got a pretty loaded skill set in the pass catching department. This past official visit weekend, they hosted Jalen Lott and Ethan Booby Feaster. Both felt like it was a possibility. I think heading into the weekend, Jalen Lott probably felt like more of a possibility of landing. All indications are the visit with Feaster went fantastic. So he, from what I have heard, is trending really well with the Trojans as of right now, June 12th. Now, he is still taking 2 more visits. He's got his kind of, if you want to say, home school of Texas and Texas A&M is visiting, I believe, this weekend. And then he'll end his official visits in his original hometown. He's originally from Louisiana at LSU. So, as we know, and as I've said many times, official visits are huge in the process. They can sway everything. You're getting red carpet treatment. You're getting all the sorts of, seeing the best of what the program has to offer. And we live in a world now where it's, what have you done for me lately? So as good as the USC visit was, having 2 after that certainly does not, necessarily bow in their favor. But that being said, if even after these 2 visits, he's still coming back to, man, that USC stuff was pretty cool, you got to feel like USC's in a good spot, really good spot. So that's sometimes that's the benefit of having the earlier visit, is while the recency bias can sway a kid, a few months later, they'll be like, all right, no, let's let it wear off. Yeah, I keep coming back to that one. Like, that one was awesome. Like, I want to be out in LA. So what's interesting is today a few different reports came out. Steve Wiltfong, the national recruiting insider for On3, had like a little snippet. They did a good job teasing a headline, but it was just a tiny little snippet in this big article saying that he felt Texas A&M, is trending for the lead for Booby Feaster. And this is before his visit. So I don't know if that's more just sources excited that he's coming, or if that's really the case. Now, our friend Scott Schrader of On3, USC's insider, he feels USC is kind of the lead. Again, didn't say that he's going to commit or anything, but feels like USC's in a really good spot. And while Jalen Lott may have been the favorite heading into the official visit weekend and still sitting in a really good spot, it seems like Feaster has actually kind of overtaken that. Because, again, I don't think they'll add 2. It's kind of one more receiver and they're done. So you're looking at one of those 2 guys. Plus, there's a few other potential visitors here at the end of June. Now, either one would be a great addition. I think Feaster, with his age and skill set, he's the 5th-ranked receiver in the entire class. He reclassified. This is what always, I think has to be pointed out. When a guy reclassifies and still remains as one of the top elite in their class, that's kind of like, in reality, they're even going to be higher. Like Jakeem Stewart, right? He reclassified from 26 to 25. 26th class, he was the number 1 recruit. far and away. I think he was number one, like, overall, total, any position. Reclassifies to the 25 class, and he falls down to, like, top 25 overall recruit, somewhere like that. He was a top 5 defensive lineman, edge player. Now, that just because he's jumping into an older class with more established rankings and analysis and whatnot. But in reality, he's like a year behind those guys, so you think when he catches up, he's going to overtake that. So the fact that Boobie Feaster is still the 5th-ranked receiver after reclassifying, the fact that Mark Bowman is still the number 1 tight end after reclassifying, just shows you the ceiling that they have when they're able to get in the building, get with the program, get within the scheme, the system, and develop. That just shows you how much upward trajectory that those guys have, even more so than a kind of true commit, like RJ Sermon's now being in the 25 class. Like, I'm sure, I haven't even looked, but I'm sure his ranking fell a little bit from being a top, like, 2 corner to, I don't know where he finished in 25, but because he's, younger and less developed. But Bowie Feaster, I think, the ceiling is super high with this kid. Size is people probably think he's 6 foot, 175. He'll put on more weight. I don't know if he'll grow anymore in terms of that, but that's plenty good size for a true number 1 kind of receiver. And I think what adds to his skill set is he can play kind of inside outside. Like, he can be a true X or Z receiver on the outside, or he can play inside on packages. When you think of what Jordan Addison did when he was at SC, I mean, these are way different body types. But Addison, what made him so good in this system was that he was able to kind of play all over the place. And obviously his connection with Caleb Williams was really good, and, his hands and route running, all that. But he could play inside, could play outside. He wasn't kind of confined to one receiver position. And I think Boobie Feaster would give you that when you look at, and I think this whole class, sorry to, change it up, but when you look at, like, Trent Mosley, I think he was recruited as, like, an inside guy. But there's no doubt he could play on the outside if needed. Luke Weaver, I think, can play inside, outside. DeZino, I think, is more outside but can play inside and has certainly the speed to play and the quickness to play inside. Tron Baker, can line him up differently. So, but Boobie Feaster would be the highest rated one. But, I mean, that's a pretty stacked receiver class if you're able to end up landing him. So, really exciting in terms of that. Again, good guys. Scott Schrader was able to kind of link up with him. I want to say it might have just been this morning even. And so, make sure to check that out on We Are SC for Scott Schrader. But quote here, I think what could be exciting when he was talking to him is, he says, with USC, they will have a great quarterback throwing their receivers the ball with Lincoln Riley as the head coach. I love the coaching staff. I love the city. I love LA, and it's a great place to be in. And Coach Dennis Simmons, that's my guy. I talk to Lincoln Riley and Coach Simmons every single day. He goes on to say, I got a little source I like a lot too, Jakeem Stewart. So that's my guy. He's from Louisiana, so he's just like me. I talk to him a good amount. He's like family and a top recruiter. And finally, on Coach Simmons, wide receiver coach, that's my guy. He probably calls me every day. Or, excuse me, that's my guy Feaster said about Riley. He probably calls me every day. He's got who I feel is the best slot in the 2026 class, referring to Trent Mosley. He's also got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, Jonas Williams, and they're building a great class for 26. So obviously USC is all in. They're talking every day. And usually with a lot of recruits, but Riley, I think Dennis Simmons deserves some flowers. He's one of those receiver coaches that does not get the credit he deserves. Even among the USC fan base, I don't think gets the credit he deserves. Just because he's much more quiet, but he's super highly respected. He really is a good recruiter. I think he's much more targeted in his recruiting. I know some fans, there's some frustration about guys he doesn't offer or takes too long to offer or kind of gets in the game late. But I just think he's really targeted in who he goes after so he can really go all in on those prospects and end up ultimately getting them to commit. So clearly has made a good relationship and built a foundation with Feaster. Now, something really strategic that USC did that, most teams try to do as well, on their first official visit, I can't remember if I talked about it, but it was definitely highly talked about. A lot of the commits that they had join the non-commits on this weekend because they moved around a lot from who was originally going to be on certain weekends. And they ended up having a lot different guys come this one. They had a huge contingency of commits coming with the goal of, Talanoa Ely. Connect with Talanoa Ely. You guys all know him, but when you think of Kenai Pepe, when you think of Tamahuni Tapui, when you think of all those guys that have kind of played in the Trinity League, Samota, their kind of goal was like, hey, connect with Ely, like get the family feel and get him in this class. Well, on the flip side of that, when you look at guys like Booby Feaster and Jalen Lott, well, they had quarterback commit Jonas Williams on this visit. Williams and Feaster were able to spend a ton of time together. These are two guys that play in completely different parts of the country. Williams is in Illinois. Feaster's in Texas. They probably had never spoken before. Now you get a whole weekend together, kind of dreaming about what could be as the USC connection. The next great USC quarterback, the next great USC receiver. Feaster talked about he kind of compares his game to Jamar Chase, but also his coach that he compares him to Big Mike Williams, BMW, USC legend. So could you be the next great USC quarterback and USC receiver? Well, when you get the guys together, you can kind of start dreaming that. It has an impact. Certainly has an impact. So all that to say, we got a month to go. I think he wants to announce his commitment right around that July 4th weekend. So he'll take these next two visits, A&M and LSU, take kind of a week, and then announce. So hopefully it's USC. If they can close out with Feaster, close out kind of the receiver, keep all those guys intact, I mean, that's a strong, strong receiving class with a lot of different skill sets. So that's the latest update on Feaster. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I think this would be a huge, huge get for the USC Trojans. Make sure to drop comments below on the USC LAFB channel. Like I say, hit up the new message board. We're trying to build that thing out on LAFBnetwork.com. Check out some merch. It helps support us if you want to buy a shirt there or whatnot. We're going to add a lot more to it over the next few months. And as always, fight on.